So how's everybody feeling?
Feeling good, feeling great.
Chris, how you feeling in your building? You know what I mean?
Living the dream.
Welcome everybody to our channel, and with us today is Chris Smith, VP at EllisDon and Mess Mystery. So welcome everyone, and thank you all for coming.
Oh, thanks for having me. Happy to be here. You know, I don't have a choice at this point, but I'm here.
You don't have a choice. Listen, you don't want to have a choice.
I don't want to.
We are with the best of the best in the industry anyway. So
there you go.
So Chris, thank you for devoting your time and spending all this time with us. So the one question that most of us, like obviously us driving through the city, all we see is EllisDon everywhere.
Right.
Buildings, projects, right? You agree?
We're a little shameless in our signage, but
but that's okay. Like, you know what I mean? You guys definitely.
It comes with the real estate territory. You gotta let people know who you are.
100%.
Yeah, for sure.
So how did it all unfold? Like, well, when did it all start?
Well, so you're gonna have to bear with me a little bit, right? And looking around here, this is all before my time on this planet, or at least the big stories are. So, I mean, the easy one, EllisDon, was started by two brothers. The first project was a very small renovation. I mean, you saw EllisDon, right? So it was Don Smith and David Ellis Smith. Right. And I think they just decided to smush their names together and go out and start to build renovations. The company grew for 30, 35 years and I wouldn't say didn't really, but the big stepping stone was the Sky Dome, right? And I'm going to continue to call it the Sky Dome.
I know.
I mean, there's a different name to it. I thought it was only
not on this building. So that was the first, real big time. That's now the center of the city, and that would have been, in the late 80s. So EllisDon continued to grow once they hit that big capacity stage into one of Canada's biggest builder. So builder, we call that a general contractor, right? So, and what that means, and this is an important nuance here, is that up until probably the early 2000s, EllisDon was what is considered a general contractor, right? So the architect, the developer, whoever comes to your contractor and you say, here I have a design, go out and build this for me. So we talked about the Sky Dome being a big piece of the company or a big step in the history. But again, we want to talk about the nuances of general contractor versus the EllisDon today.
Of course, yeah.
If you have a project, you go out, you have an architect, you have all the engineers and consultants put together your design. The EllisDon of the past, you would approach them, they would get it built. That's their job.
Yeah.
EllisDon is now what we call, or what is, a construction services company. And it sounds like semantics, but at the end of the day, now it's whatever the service you are looking for within construction, somebody within this building or this company will be able to do it.
Got it.
The industry expert of whatever it is here.
Got it.
The big step is public-private partnerships. We've talked about this quite at length, but the gist of it is public sector will come and say, I have a piece of land. I don't know I'm not an expert in architecture. I'm not an expert in development. So you are the industry experts. You take care of it and you make sure that you stand behind your work for a 30-year period. And that's a really big, important difference from what a lot of the groups here at EllisDon do versus a lot of the other contractors out there. And it's building for the future, and it's building to have your name on it, and it's being proud of what you built. And it's a little different, even though it sounds like semantics. It's really internalizing and taking pride in what you build.
Of course. So in 2021, you guys celebrated 70 years.
We did.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
So having said that,
He looks great for 70 years.
Yeah.
Look at that. What's the secret? What's the secret?
Well, like I did say, so this is before my time.
Right. So, but having said that, so what are you guys involved in terms of like I know there's residential, there's commercial, there's all kinds of different projects, hospitals and stuff like that, like EllisDon has been
a part of. Well, the thing that most people don't know is the people at EllisDon have pretty much built it all. And most people don't realize this, but on a weekly or even a daily basis, you will interact with an EllisDon project or something that EllisDon has built.
Can you give us an example?
I saw that was the easy. That was the easy pitch, right?
Take a breath.
The flashy names, right? There's the AGO, there's the Sky Dome, there's CIBC Square. For those of us who watch Suits, that whole show filmed at the Adelaide Center. We're building most of the transit around the city one way or another. And that's a big piece. So that would be, for me, the cool piece of what most people don't know.
For sure.
Is that you're interacting with EllisDon on almost a daily basis. Oh, right. Sorry, I missed the malls. Vaughan Mills Mall, Square One. If you've gone to the hospital or post-secondary institution in Canada over the last few decades, there's a very high chance EllisDon built it, or at least part of it.
Yeah.
And that's only construction, right? So we go into construction services and why that distinction is so important. Some of the stuff that's happening in this building, particularly at EllisDon, is really exciting. So the civil team here is realigning the river there to make sure that they can create an island community.
That's amazing.
And as part of that, they're using construction to rebuild natural habitat. And that sounds like a contradiction, but they're pulling it off. Like, there's new vegetation that was thought gone. There's new fish and animals that are all coming back. Toronto was the city for a while that had this beautiful waterfront, but hadn't really discovered it. So now that's coming, that's changing. It's going to become this beautiful project coming forward.
Yeah, so even behind this little wall here, there's like probably 150 computers, big screen computers running, and engineers. We walk through there, and it's just incredible to see
100%.
All of that, like mock-ups and all of the detail work and all of that stuff. And like even around us here, within 30, 40 feet, there's meetings ongoing constantly, right? So it is incredible to see, right, that a company like this can thrive from almost nothing,
right,
to something at significance.
Well, and particularly with the area that we're sitting in right now, you mentioned all the computers and engineers behind us. What most people don't know is those 100 or 200 people are all engineers that we compete with, like Google, to try to bring top talent into EllisDon for software.
Absolutely.
That's incredible.
We've talked about, like everyone now, the whole term is AI and digitization. What does that mean for construction?
Of course.
So the team back here, before a shovel goes in the ground, I hate the term metaverse because now it's got all this bag.
Weird, yeah.
They build an entire building down to every detail digitally before a shovel goes in the ground. So we effectively are building it twice.
Yeah.
Which is insane. For a non-engineer like me, I can't even wrap my head around.
Yeah, it's kind of like building it software and hardware at the same time.
Well, one of the buzzwords over the last decade that I've heard for a lot of industries that have, like, they've been leaders in those industries, whether it's real estate, whether it's whatever, a lot of the pivot point now has become, hey, we're a technology company that just happens to do this. Like in a previous life, our old alma mater, let's just say, we flew down to Austin, flew down to Texas quite a bit, awesome company. And then they just started moving straight into tech because that's where they know. And just like you said, like they were attracting the likes of the Googles, the Facebook, and anyone else. And I think that's where it has to be. That's where it really has to be.
Well, you'll hear when we have our management meetings and Kieran and the rest of the executive team talk about the future of EllisDon, it is a tech company that does.
Absolutely.
There's no debate. There's no question. If we're going to be successful, that's the idea.
Absolutely.
So Chris, anything close to your heart? I know you guys built probably a whole list, and we can probably spend a decade deciphering which project is the best in your opinion or somebody else's opinion. But is there anything that is close to your heart? We've
talked about how a lot of the stories, for me, a lot of it wasn't on the planet or was very young, right? The Sky Dome is an incredible project.
It is.
It's iconic for the city of Toronto. It's part of the identity.
Still is. Yeah.
For that, like, you hear the stories. It was going to be sole sourced. My grandfather figured it out that it was going to be awarded to somebody. We were just some tiny EllisDon company from London who figured out that was happening, and they went down and effectively kicked down the door at City Hall and said, "You better not award this in a sole source. That's not fair."
Yeah, sure.
And then ended up now building the first retractable roof stadium in the world. So despite the fact that I was 2 through this, it's hard to not walk by that and be proud of what this company is a part of. It's part of the heritage. Then there's other major projects, right? You watch, again, I wasn't even here, but the stories are insane.
Yeah.
The 401 en routes.
Okay.
Right? I think the story goes, the legend goes, that EllisDon found out that was open for procurement on a Wednesday.
Okay.
And we needed to put in a guaranteed bid by the following Monday. Something to that effect, right? Maybe it's a week or 2 weeks, but either way,
that's a lot of work for that short
because I do understand, like, I mean, the heritage and the company and all of that stuff, but like you're carrying a lot of weight on your shoulders as well, continuing.
Well, but it's hearing the stories, hearing the effort that was put in to bring this stuff to life, and being able to walk by and say, hey, I'll tell you a crazy story about that building. Yeah. That's cool whether you were here as part of it or not. But obviously the close to heart ones for me are our project at 36 Aura that's now coming into occupancy as we speak. So we'll be closing on that in the next couple months. And obviously the really close to home project is Arcadia District, which we'll obviously talk about a lot further. That's one that's really important for us.
So why that location? I mean, knowing you and the company, you guys can perform almost anywhere in the world,
right?
Especially in our city,
right?
Why Arcadia District Residences at that particular location at Bloor and Kipling?
And maybe to clarify too, because the public-private partnership, I mean, you guys that most people don't know, I call it white label. They're the developer for the biggest project, or they're the builder for the biggest developers in the city that people don't know about. Like when you were talking about Skydome, I mean, I had the honor and privilege of being down there when Carter hit his home run. I was like such a young guy in school. We went down with friends. And then I had the ability to live at City Place, another project that you guys handled that, right? And so I was always going to the gym at the Skydome. Like it was there, like you literally retransformed that section of Toronto. And so, you know, there's obviously a reason if now you're putting your name as not only the builder, but the developer as well. I mean, let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so why? Why that location? I mean...
Well, look, we all know we've read it over and over, the supply problem within Toronto and within Canada, right? So when we look at Toronto, and here's a stat for you. I heard one of the chief economists at one of the banks said this. The population of Toronto grows by 20,000 people every month.
Oof.
Wow. 20,000, think about that. So I'll admit I haven't double-checked him, but he's a smart guy, so I trusted him.
I trusted him.
But
700 a year?
So there's the growth story of Toronto. Then you look at it, you say, for us, we looked at Etobicoke and said, well, this is the second fastest, growing municipality in the area of Toronto. Key there. The next one is, okay, if we're going to look at Etobicoke, where is going to be the concentrated growth?
Yeah.
So there's two major there's two transit stations in Etobicoke. Mimico, which is obviously on the Lakeshore West side, provides great access, in and out of the city, but what people don't know, likely, is the Kipling station is now, it's a multimodal transit hub. There's GO Station, there's Mississauga Bus, there's Toronto Subway and Toronto Bus, all right there. So on top of that, the city of Toronto, or the province of Ontario has designated this area as a growth center.
Yes.
So the growth is coming. It's going to be substantial. So that connectivity, to know that through the Kipling station, you are now within 20 minutes of the three major employment zones.
Yes.
A million jobs within 20 minutes of Arcadia. And it's one of the only, it's not there yet.
Yeah.
Being there at the front of the curve and being able to stand there, you can go now and there's a wide open space. To say, just rejigged all the roads, put those in place.
6 points we're talking about.
Point.
Yeah, exactly.
So right in the center of that, the city is going to build a 550,000 square foot civic.
Amazing.
You can go, and it's the only place in the city, again, where you can look across and say, there's nothing here yet, but
it's coming.
Yeah. And that's the big one, right? There's only so many areas where you look and you can see all the towers 10 years from now. It's part of that.
Yeah.
Pardon my French.
Yeah. It's
and then the next one is Etobicoke City Center has the most competitive price to rent ratio in the city. And what I mean by that is the amount that you're going to buy in at versus the amount of rent you're going to get for it, potentially, is incomparable. If you were to look downtown Toronto, you're going to be paying 20 or up to 30% more to buy in for only about 5 to 10% more in rent.
Absolutely.
So it's a really key point in making this area targeted growth
Yep.
moving forward, and why it's such a great investment.
So it's funny, we touched on a point like in Mississauga Square One area, right? Like you were saying, they build them all first, and then they build around them all,
Right.
Yeah.
right? So it's kind of a similar idea, like catching that curve now, where they will build obviously the civic center and all of the transit hubs and all of that stuff.
So
Growth is it doesn't just happen.
Yeah.
Right? People don't just collectively decide that there's going to be a new community here.
Yeah.
So the province saying, we are going to build and upgrade the transit hub. We are going to spend hundreds of millions of dollars to build a brand new civic center.
So the push is there.
The push is there. So all of the government is spending the money to build it themselves, and now they're making policy more accommodative for more growth to happen. So it's no fluke. The policy is in place for this area to really grow.
So I just wanted to add real quick. I know you mentioned Square One, which is great. The key takeaway that I want people to know that's different about this particular location, it is transit first, right? So you've got access to so many parts of the city that are cut off to people that are in the 905. And a lot of the conversations I get with people that are potentially empty nesters or who love the idea of the suburbs, but the suburbs have become so developed now that they feel locked because transit's an issue. Square One, I mean, if you live down in Square One, it's great if you work from home. But if you have to commute anyway, try getting out of those areas. But it's 45 minutes just to get onto major transit. Whereas here, you don't even need a car. And I think we're ahead of other cities in North America, but now we're catching up to potentially like a New York or a London that have these ancillary cities.
Density at least, right?
Exactly, that don't need to be in the core. Like I have a lot of clients that don't want to be in the core. It's great to go in and come out, but they feel they have to drive because there's no access. So I think this is going to be the first of many great things to come that eliminates all of that.
And you got to think about it, right? Like the GO station the GO train from Kipling Station brings you right to Union Station.
100%.
The Kipling subway that's there brings you right across the track of the Toronto subway station.
Yeah,
so you're
west,
west.
or
So
south,
you can go right to Union, which is the distribution point for all the other trains in the subway.
Yeah.
Or you could go right across to the Bloor station, which of course is the distribution.
You can go Yorkdale and go all the way to the other side, to the east.
Also My Way, like you said. Yeah.
Yeah, the My Way bus is there, TTC bus is there, and it's worth noting, this is all within 500 meters.
100%.
Like it's right there. It's not, you're not going on a 10-minute trek or a 20-minute trek. The station is right there.
Yeah. What I love too is like for snowbirds or consultants or anyone that like likes to leave in the winter, right? There's quite a few. You don't even need a car anymore. You don't need to take a taxi anymore because you have the up to Pearson directly from there as well.
Yeah.
Right? So that's also a huge plus.
Absolutely it is.
Yeah.
So it is just incredible because if you're looking that neighborhood as a whole, and if you take a piece of land and you build something, you're trying to use that particular parcel the best possible way and to maximize it. Right. So once you invest, you buy, you stay there. It's like playing the Monopoly, right?
Yeah, right.
So you stay there and that project will stay there for a long time.
Right.
So eventually everything around as it's being built, you're kind of being pushed out, right? Out of that, core circle to that hub, right? It's not like that they're gonna make more land around that.
Right.
So it is very important to be there first, to know that there is a push from the government, from the institutions, from everything, and to pick the right project.
Right.
So to like me, when I look at the builders and the developers and everything else, knowing that they can fulfill, the project, and they can manage and they can do all of that stuff, right? So that's something that
Agreements that the last couple of years have been challenging, to say the best.
Yes.
For developers, for builders, for consumers, for investors, because nobody could have expected what was happening with COVID. Those numbers went rampant, okay?
Sure.
And one of the things that we've learned from that is that even the most seasoned builder, let's just say, or seasoned developer is not prone to, lose their project. They're not prone to make mistakes. And we've seen some scary stories happen. You mentioned Mimico. I'm not going to say names, but there's stuff out there that is scary. So as brokers, for us, it's good to partner with legacy brands that have not only like the history, but are evolving with the times. And so that's why I always say, like, it's not just about, oh, this is a great location, which it is, or the price is great, which it is. It's also about who's doing the work.
True.
And if I'm betting my name, that's the name I'm going to bet on, you know?
Absolutely.
You know?
So let's touch on something else. Bank interest rates.
Oh, this is the $1 question.
Everyone's watching, Chris.
I know.
No pressure.
No pressure.
No pressure.
Shake the eight dollars. You can look at your notes. That's okay.
So this actually, I've never in my life woken up and been excited to look at the 5-year bond curve. And I will admit I am that much of a nerd when it comes to interest rate.
Right.
And nobody knows, right?
Yep.
There's a great debate at one of the economic forums where all the main economists at all the banks talked about this, and there are different answers all over the place. In my career and being even as an adult, most people right now in the business community have, or call it active, in a time when monetary policy has gone through such a tight. So we actually have a unique lens where you can say, I'm just going to take a step back and look at the data and just take back and look at what was happening way back. So I want to make sure.
Yeah.
So
Please do.
in the last 30 years, there have been 6 monetary tightening cycles, more or less, right? And those tightening cycles have gone from about 1.5 points to 3.5 points again. And that has taken, again, this is just all backward looking, 2 years before it hits that peak.
Okay. Yeah.
The interesting thing is every single one of these, they're followed by really fast rate cuts. And that has happened over the course of about 9 months.
Yeah.
And they're at least, in quantum, they're at least what the hike was, if not more.
Okay.
And the interesting point about that is, and this is nothing that's not already out there, but the economists would much rather, the Bank of Canada would much rather be able to have that tool and know they can cut quickly than cut too soon and have to restart their fight with inflation.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Right? So that piece, who knows if they overhiked from 4.5 to 5, who knows if they're going to hold us for too long. I guess the point of what the numbers will show you is that when they cut fast, and they reserve that card in their back pocket because restarting the fight against inflation is a lot more damaging than knowing you can cut.
Absolutely.
So we're watching it now. Who knows what's going to happen? The other data point, if you look at in the 80s, was another time when they had pretty excessive monetary policy. And when they tightened, you saw housing prices come down. And if you look at it, it seems that monetary policy hasn't really clamped off or stifled housing demand. It's just shifted it.
Yes.
So the years following when they policy loosened up were huge, right? So who knows? That's just what the numbers tell you from if you look 40 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And then you're here today. So what's happening now, right? The big numbers, I know it's been a really hard time for everybody. And if you look at what's happened, it's hard to lose a little bit of perspective.
Yeah.
I mean, inflation was at 8.2 June 22. Like that's not long ago. So you think about how fast that ramped in. And of course, they'll say the last mile is the toughest, and it will be, of course. Now, which was an interesting inflection point, was that core inflation is now starting to come in lower than headline.
Okay.
And what that means is that, what that means is that the inflation number that we're all tracking, that 10 a.m. everybody's watching, we're no longer relying on gas and food to hit that number. So at the end of the day, it means the core variables that the Bank of Canada watch, those are starting
stabilizing and coming,
which wasn't the case before. We were relying on more or less, to ramp in that number. So, and the elephant in the room that is now finally starting to come, I would say, into the more general popular conversation is that out of the bucket that the Bank of Canada looks to measure interest rates, most of those key numbers now are at or below their targets, with the one glooming problem being housing.
Yeah.
And if you were to take housing out of that calculation, we're already at their target. So if you're the Bank of Canada watching this, I don't want to be in their shoes. Like it's a really tough situation to be.
It's a tough spot. It's a tough spot because I want to add something also to that. Like if you're looking at real estate and then interest rates, like we could agree that they're holding that, piece in their toolbox, and they can kind of control as much as they can. But we know that from today future, we're missing units. We need more inventory.
100%.
And if they pull down the interest rates fast, guess what's going to happen?
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's already happening.
Yeah. We've seen it. We've seen these spikes.
Already.
2017, 2019, 2020. We've seen the spikes and what happens. And everyone says, oh, as brokers in the industry, you guys must love it. In fact, we don't. We're on the side of our clients. And so the problem with that is you can't really predict where the numbers go and what's going to happen. What's the value? In a more balanced market where supply and demand is in equilibrium, everybody's happy because they can forecast better. This is like, hey, you make forecasting decisions and then all of a sudden you're sitting there either with too much inventory or you can't keep up, So I think, once again, what does anybody know? Based on what I'm following, what I'm seeing, I think the worst is the worst is behind us. I think the bottom is kind of in.
Yeah.
And I think by end of Q2, we should start seeing some relief. What does that mean? I don't think that we can catch up with the demand once everybody starts getting back to the table. And that's why getting into projects potentially like in Arcadia now gives you time, breathing room, right? Because they're closing in about 3 or 4 years.
No, absolutely. So when we talk about Arcadia District here, why Smeg appliances?
Well, it's an interesting question, right? And it's unique in the sense where it was actually one of the consultants we work with. We introduced ourselves to her, we met, and it was this
high-end company.
Well, it's a 70-year-old company that takes a lot of pride in what they do. And she said, you know what? I got somebody that you should meet. Like you'll get it. So Smeg, a lot of people know only the retro appliances,
the fridge,
but the fridge, the kettle,
exactly, and coffee machine counters.
What most people don't know is in Europe they're like a wolf. They're one of the top brands in Italy and across Europe. Pardon me. And they wanted to make their entrance into the Canadian market. So every unit in Arcadia is going to come with a Smeg appliance package at no cost to the buyer.
So great.
And it's important because we talked about P3s and pride in construction and pride in what you build. So the Smeg appliances are going to be base for the building, right?
That's amazing.
You in condos, you forget the kitchen a lot of the time. You spend a lot of time there, so it better be of good quality.
Yeah.
You've got your Smeg. You got your Smeg appliances. The floors that we put in, and now you're getting into the construction points, we're building and putting in what's called LVT, so luxury vinyl tile. And this is to make sure, there's no peeling of the floors, there's no bubbling. It's really meant to
way more stable of a product, right? Yeah.
If it's considered, it's an upgrade on any other unit, and you're getting that as part of a base package at Arcadia.
Yeah.
And the idea being that if you are a buyer or an end user or an investor, you are going to have this product that's going to be there and you can count on for
durability and all of that
long term. So the idea was a turnkey solution where you can trust what you're going to buy.
Yeah.
So from my understanding, the Smeg is the first project is Arcadia District that they're kind of like the partnership with.
First partnership in Canada, I think.
Partnership in Canada?
Yes.
On a residential level, I'm assuming.
If you just take a look at the website, I mean, I nerded out a little bit, so you can tell Miami, New York, Los Angeles, some of the other big cities in North America have them. So for Toronto to be the first, I mean, that says something.
Yeah.
Right?
Amenities at the Arcadia District.
Right.
Let's talk about those, because now we talked about transportation hubs. We talked about the community, and it will be epic for sure in the years to come. What about amenities?
Well, so this is a key part of Arcadia. I'm glad you brought this up. Right. There has been what seems to me to be a bit of a commoditization of pre-construction condos. And I think if you're a buyer, you're an investor, you're an end user, looking at the market through that lens is a really big mistake. I mean, you are, let's not forget, you are buying a physical asset.
Yeah.
You're not buying a stock on an exchange. You're not buying, this is a physical asset. So if you're paying a certain amount of money for something, what are you going to get for that?
100%.
And the idea with Arcadia, we talked about the floors, we talked about the kitchens, we talked about the appliances. That's your physical unit itself, right? But what else is coming with it? So with Arcadia, with a master plan community like what it is, you have access to more or less 4 times the amenities of any other project. That's the benefit of a master plan community. So 4,000 square foot gym, 4,500 square foot co-working space. You've got 8,000 square foot kids and teen playroom type or entertainment space, we'll call it. There's various party rooms. There's a pool. There's a hot tub. There's a spa. There's a daycare.
There's you guys are also, which is quite cool, you're also redeveloping like a park portion there with the abandoned tracks, what I saw, which is going to be very cool for kids. So it's like, it's not like you're missing green space. It's going to be a huge green space. So if you have young kids, it's going to be fantastic.
It's going to be a terrific neighborhood. And again, that's when you're buying at Arcadia, you're also buying access to all of that.
For sure.
And that's a really key piece of the project. And make sure you're not buying into a commodity. There's a point where if you're buying something, you are buying this physical asset.
Of course.
So go talk to somebody else. Go talk to somebody who's renting a unit that's built by the developer you're going to purchase.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or go buy somebody who's bought a product and is in there themselves. Go see what their experience was like. Because that's really important. Because you again, don't forget, you are buying that physical asset.
Yeah.
And I do feel that commoditization has happened a bit over the last few years. And I do think there's going to be some people wishing they paid more attention.
Yeah.
100%. And like we have mentioned earlier in the video, like it feels nice to have that, pride driving down the street and knowing, some of these structures have been built 30 years ago, 50 years ago, 70, and they're not moving, which means that parcel of land was maximized.
Right. Yeah.
So having said that, in 2021,
Right.
The company as a whole has decided to give back to all the employees and to be 100% shared by the employees, correct?
Right. EllisDon it will be a 100% employee-owned company.
Very good. That is incredible because it is funny. Like we came here this morning, had a coffee and stuff like that, and you see people walking in, and they have a smile on their face. They're working, and it's just that great atmosphere. Like it feels like a airport lobby when I walked in here.
Yeah.
But what are the future plans now for EllisDon?
Well, look, we've gone through all the different types of projects that EllisDon's built. EllisDon and everybody here will continue to do that. We talked about tech, the digitization of construction. All the people here behind me that are way smarter than me, and I have no idea what they even talk about half the time.
Yeah,
that's all going to continue. And EllisDon and the people who work here have always been called in to solve the biggest challenges in construction, whether it's massive hydroelectric dams, whether it's the first retractable roof stadium in the world, whatever it is, EllisDon has been called in to fix it or try to fix it.
Yeah.
And what's happening now, again, we all know how much of a supply problem we have in Canadian housing.
Yes.
So what can we do as an industry? How can we be champions of solving that problem? I think that's where you're going to start to see EllisDon more and more and more. And we'll probably still be shameless with our signage. So
there it is.
You'll see us around.
I hope nothing less.
Yeah, I hope nothing less. Well, Chris, I would like to thank you so much for spending the time with us, sharing your knowledge, and you're carrying a lot of weight on your shoulders, steering this company in the right direction. And we love to see your sign. We love the projects. We're proud of you guys being in our city here and developing, obviously, all across the world. But seeing this, it definitely, I feel great about that. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you, Mesh.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir.
Good to see you.
All right.
So thank you all for watching our channel. Please like and subscribe, and see you next time.
Take care.
Thanks.